Hi, I'm Carmela Molliker and I'm the textile conservator here at the museum.
My name's Jess Wignall. I'm a paper conservator.
Becoming a conservator for me was that love for anything fabric, I suppose.
There are so many things that I love about my job. The objects, mainly the museum's collection, is so wonderful.
The crafts, the sewing, the garment construction was, and the history of costume was my love.
A lot of the time I love to see the objects once they're on display, and I go back to when I was working on it and learning the intimacy about the object and becoming really familiar with the way that it was constructed and put together, and also the passion that was involved in making it.
The paper and textile team work on a very large range of material, from the very ordinary to the very special items, anything from a Miss Australia crown through to a newspaper.
I work on lots of different types of paper objects in the museum, and they vary from books to documents, newspapers and photographs.
To become a conservator, I did undertake special training. I did a Bachelor of Applied Science in the Conservation of Cultural Materials.
You have to have lots of good hand skills, patience and passion.
Textiles are not just fabrics, they've got metal and buttons and bone and other components. So the course allowed me to have a better understanding of those materials, which brought in the science of what chemicals to use to treat these items. So it gave us a broad understanding, and then I went into the speciality of textiles.
A paper object being put on display needs quite a number of things to have done to it before it gets on the wall or in the showcase. Firstly, after condition reporting and making sure that the object is stable enough for display, we need to get it into a window mat. A window mount is used in between the glazing and the object so that there's no damage occurring, either through contact, which can cause condensation, or friable material being squashed against it.
Costume covers a wide range of materials, from a lovely feathered hat to a pair of silk stockings, or 1870s a bustle, which assists in creating that lovely shape, which is one of my favourite periods in costume.
The window mount has a beveled angle cut into it, usually so that the lighting, museum lighting, doesn't cause shadows on the object. It's a really nice visual thing.
Well, recently we acquired a set of jockey silks that the jockey that rode Makybe Diva, who is a racehorse well known to Australian public. The jockey silks arrived to us framed, which isn't quite the way we were wanting to display them. So at that point, my observations were to remove them out of the frame, which also revealed adhesive and staples, which would cause further damage long term. So the treatment involved was to release the adhesive, remove the staples, and then prepare them for the way we want it on display.
We cut mounts at the museum currently with this awesome machine, but previously we had to cut them by hand, which was a very long and tedious process, and often mistakes were made, which the machine does not do. It cuts straight and it cuts on bevels, so we can do outside edges and inside edges, and it rotates on a head, so it can do fancy corners as well.
The Oats dress, which is a 1870s garment, where you could tell it was well worn, and there were a number of elements that needed to be looked at closer. So as a conservator, you also work as a detective in some ways, where you're investigating the damage, where has it come from, what aspects of it need to be dealt with. In the catalogue, museum catalogue, it was classified as a riding habit. Looking at it closely, it was a silk garment, the 1870s style, which had this amazing bustle on it, a beautiful detail. That made me think, well, a riding habit, you would normally sit on a horse, and the garment, the fabric would have to withstand, jumping on a horse and galloping around. At that point, I did some research and really discovered that no, that aspect of it, being classified as a riding habit, wasn't the true definition of a riding habit. So that was quite an interesting aspect of my work as a conservator.
When we hinge an object for framing or window matting, we use a Japanese tissue and handmade wheat starch paste to make sure we don't have any impurities. And this paste is used on very small hinges that are located at the top of the object behind the window. As a practice, we hinge objects into a window rather than sticking them down, because if you stick it down, it can potentially cause major distortions and irreversible damage to the object. Paper is something that you really need to touch and feel and become quite intimate with when you're working with it. There's a very delicate and fragile nature about paper that requires hands and hands only.
As a textile conservator, I think I've got the best job in the world, actually. It's a fantastic job or profession to get into for me, and I'm sure there'll be lots of people out there who would enjoy that as well, just getting up and close and personal with items, the problem solving that's required to develop a treatment, to see it in a box that's oh my goodness, how can I get that onto a mannequin? And going through those steps and finally walking through an exhibition and seeing that item, or the costume, for example, on a mannequin, and thinking, oh, I actually had something to do with that, and bringing your family across and seeing items that you've worked on. And so it's just absolutely fantastic.